We must stop being ashamed of the cross and how we live. We must save our lives by losing them in the service of our Lord and those in whom we encounter him daily. We must crucify the passions and habits of thought, word, and deed that keep us enslaved to the fear of death. As we prepare to follow him to his passion by prayer, fasting, generosity to the needy, and forgiveness, we must learn to bear our own crosses, for the only way to life is through dying to the distorting power of sin in our souls. We do that through humble repentance every time that we gain the strength to say no to ourselves in order to say yes to God. There is no way around this uncomfortable truth. To save our lives, we must lose them. Instead of being ashamed of the cross, we must bear witness to the one who offered himself fully on it for our salvation by how we live each day. That means to deny ourselves, take up our crosses, and follow him as we struggle to die to all that would separate us from embracing the blessed eternal life that the Savior has brought to the world. There is simply no other way to be a Christian and to prepare ourselves to enter into the holy joy of Pascha. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen.
You have been listening to Eastern Christian Insights with Father Philip Lemasters. Homilies from St. Luke Orthodox Church in Abilene, Texas. This has been a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.
Linking the ancient Christian faith with modern technology. You're listening to Internet-based Ancient Faith Radio.
Let's play a game, okay? I'll give you a bunch of clues and you try to guess who I am. I'm not a person, place, or thing. You can't see me or touch me or smell me. I'm considered a human condition, but really I'm a collection of symptoms. He doesn't play well with other kids. She doesn't like it if we drive home a different way. He'll sit and take the vacuum apart for hours. She doesn't look at me. I'm the twitching finger and the flapping hand. I'm the silent toddler with downcast eyes and a tippy-toe walk. I'm a diagnosis of a disorder, a box you check on the medical form, or a postscript at the end of an email. P.S. I'm not sure if you've heard, but Jack's been diagnosed. I'll make you have bad days and good days, and bad days and then good. I live in each and every one of you, whether you know it or not. I'm the cocktail party that makes you shy and the tag on your shirt that makes you itch. I'm the sticky crunch of strawberry seeds and the overwhelming hum of the air conditioner. I make some people jump and flap while others chew gum or run for miles or twirl their hair. I'm the Baby Einstein DVD on repeat. I'm long, neat rows of Thomas the Tank Engines snaking around your family room. Seeing those rows will make you feel frantic, frustrated, nervous, and empty. I'm miles and hours of Minecraft. Some days I taste like shame and bitterness, burning up from a mother's heart like sour indigestion. But other days I taste like the purest joy, like cotton candy and happiness and pride exploding within your heart. He did it. He said, Mama. You can find me in churches and synagogues and mosques. I'm in schools and movie theaters, playgrounds and libraries. For some reason, people celebrate me in April. They use the color blue, but I'm actually all the colors of the world, red and yellow, far too bright sun. But I'm also colorblind. I'm in India, I'm in Jamaica, I'm in the Philippines, and Wisconsin, and Sierra Leone, and you can find me in Russia, and Japan, and San Francisco, and Belgium. Maybe you sit across from me at your dinner table every night, or maybe You look up and you see my reflection in the mirror when you brush your teeth before bed. I live within a 10-year-old boy in New Hampshire. His name is Jack. One year, I made him afraid of the wind. So afraid, in fact, that he wouldn't go outside all winter long. The next year, it was dogs. Because of me, he wouldn't cross the street if someone was walking their pug or their dachshund. And this boy, Jack, well, I make him work hard for the things that could come naturally for others. Language and jokes and facial expressions. He spends a lot of his day anxious and confused. I'm his enigma wrapped up in Waffle Thursday and Pancake Saturday. Mom, it's Thursday. Thursday is for waffles, waffles. I've been around since the beginning of time, despite the facade of normal assembled by generations before you. There is no normal. I'm here to tell you this. It's up to you how you see me, as a nuisance, a tantrum, a disorder, or a curious lamb wearing the costume of a wolf. Can you look past my long yellow teeth and matted hair and find the soft, gentle child underneath? Because of me, Mozart wrote long, complicated symphonies. His hearing was rumored to be so sensitive that he could tell the difference in the slightest tone. Historians explain the way Michelangelo made sketch after sketch until the final pose was perfect in his rigid and unbending mind. Because of me, the Sistine Chapel explodes with light and color. Records show that Albert Einstein did terribly in school. He didn't like the way and didn't seem the way and didn't learn the way that all other kids did. And Sir Isaac Newton of the fallen apple, he had no friends. He didn't understand people. He insisted on a strict, unwavering routine. And there's Temple Grandin, a woman so intelligent, so compassionate that she revolutionized the cattle industry through her sheer perseverance and determination. You see, a still mind can still have great thoughts. And within even the quietest person, there is a voice or a painting or a song. I'm so many things. I'm hope and possibility. I'm music and dreams, kindness and color. I'm gravity. So please, before you panic or judge, before you race for a cure or rush to call me weird, try to remember my value. Remember my goodness. I will teach you the real meaning of unconditional love, a love so powerful and strong, it will rearrange your heart. At first, you probably won't even realize that you're learning from me. I am so subtle. I'm practically invisible. But every hour, every day, every year, you and I will make our peace. You will step carefully over the long rows of trains and admire the complicated cities in Minecraft. Every Thursday at dawn, you will turn on all the lights in the kitchen and take out the waffle iron for a boy who at last said, Mama. You will forget normal. I am autism. I will make you better. I will make your family better. And if you let me, I will make the world better. My brothers and sisters, I just shared with you a story about Jack that's called Who Am I? A New Look at Autism, written by Jack's mom, Carrie. Carrie Cariello is a mother and an author of the book, What Color is Monday? How Autism Changed One Family for the Better. And an extended version of this story was originally posted on her blog on March 9, 2015. And the story of all of Jackson and Michaels of the world is what we're going to explore tonight. We do this work not out of pity or fear or confusion. We do this work out of faith and love because that is what our Lord instructed us to do. In Luke 10:37, at the end of the parable of the Good Samaritan, when we're all charged with going out and doing likewise in service to others, because that is what our loving Creator put us here to do. Because whether ever you thought about it before, whether it ever entered your brain before, whether there was ever an instinct of you before, you and your parish were called to work in the mission field of autism spectrum disorder. And if you haven't begun that work, that important and critical work, well, your work hopefully begins the moment after you hear this program and meet Michael through the loving eyes of Dr. Lisa Liberatore and her partner in ministry, Mark Biondi, as we explore what you and your parish can and will do for those given the unique gift of autism spectrum disorder. Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Stewardship Calling Live in the first Wednesday series on Ancient Faith Radio. This is Bill Marianis from stewardshipcalling.com, coming to you from the shores of beautiful Lake Lanier in Gainesville, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. I have a simple premise. You have been called by your Creator to a personal calling, a reason to your life and a reason for your life, something you need to do with all of the gifts over which God has made you a steward. It's what I call your stewardship calling. And St. Paul repeatedly makes it crystal clear that we all have such a calling. For example, in his letter to the Ephesians chapter 4, verse 1, he clearly states, quote, "I beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called." Until 2017, by day, I was blessed to be a partner in two great international law firms of over 1,100 lawyers each, where I served in management, including as a managing partner of our Atlanta office, and practiced in the area of mergers and acquisitions and corporate law. But my personal calling is to be a stewardship calling evangelist. I'm here to help people and parishes discover and live their stewardship callings so that they may have a good account before the awesome judgment seat of Christ. This program and a lot of other helpful tools and information about effective churches and stewardship and church strategic planning and servant leadership can be found at my always free website, stewardshipcalling.com, and you can always reach me at bill@stewardshipcalling.com. And to all of our listeners tonight, we want you to join us by calling in and interacting with our special guest, and you can call in at 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. The first description of autism was likely made around 1800 by a Frenchman named Jean-Marc Gaspard Itard, who described deficient communication skills in a young boy named Victor. But it wasn't until 1911 that the term autism was coined by Eugene Buehler and later described by Dr. Leo Kanner in 1943. But before we hear directly from my guest today, Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Bionde, and we learn about the transformational ministry of Michael, I want to share with you a little background about Elon Musk and autism spectrum disorder. Wait, what did he say? What the heck does Elon Musk have to do with autism? Everyone knows the name Elon Musk. I mean, he's currently the wealthiest person in the world with a net worth of over something like $265 billion. Elon Musk was actually born in 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa, but his biography says he was introverted and bullied in school. Still, those schoolhood challenges didn't deter his success. He created several high-profile companies, including the payment processing juggernaut PayPal, SpaceX, the private launch company that eventually is going to go to Mars, Tesla, the largest electric car company, the Boring Company that's digging transportation tunnels underneath Los Angeles and elsewhere. Elon is involved in Dogecoin, a meme-based digital currency, and now is the largest individual shareholder of Twitter. Like him or not, few can take issue with the conclusion that he is one of the brightest minds of our time. And while everyone knows the name Elon Musk, perhaps fewer people know the name Alexis Weinman. Ms. Weinman was named Miss Montana in 2012 and went on to win the America's Choice Award at the Miss America 2013 pageant. But so what? Why am I mentioning one of the greatest minds and entrepreneurs and one of the most beautiful and talented women of our time on a program regarding autism? Well, Alexis Weinman used her platform as Miss Montana to deliver a talk entitled, quote, "Normal is just a dryer setting, living with autism," end quote. At the age of 18, Alexis was the youngest contestant in Miss America 2013 pageant and is the first known autistic contestant to complete the Miss America pageant. And during his guest appearance on Saturday Night Live, Elon Musk announced 26 seconds into his opening monologue that he has the neurodevelopmental disorder Asperger's syndrome. The American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, the 5th edition, what's called DSM-5, removed the subtype of Asperger's in 2013, and those individuals are now diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. So instead of labeling a person with Asperger's or using stigmatizing terminology like high functioning or low functioning, the DSM-5 has identified 3 levels of autism defined by how much support the autistic person needs. So level 1 requires perhaps some support, level 2 a little more support, and level 3 substantial support. A person like Elon Musk falls into the lowest level 1 support criteria. But ASD autism spectrum disorder is a disorder that exists on this spectrum, which means that each people have their own different set of needs and circumstances, and there doesn't appear to be any two that are exactly alike. In fact, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention right here in Atlanta, children or adults with ASD can have vastly different social communication, interaction skills, and needs. Some of them may not look at objects when another person is pointing at it. Some of them may have trouble relating to others or not have an interest in other people at all. Some may avoid eye contact or just want to be alone. Some may have trouble understanding other people's feelings or maybe even talking about their own feelings. Some may appear to be unaware when people talk to them, but they can respond to other sounds. Some may repeat or echo words or phrases said to them, or maybe even repeat words or phrases in place of normal language. And some may have problems or difficulties expressing their needs using the kind of typical words and emotions that maybe some of the rest of us are used to. And sometimes they'll repeat actions over and over again or have trouble adapting to a change in their routine, or maybe even have an unusual reaction to the way things smell or taste or look or feel or sound. Autism is a really big deal on many dimensions. For example, the CDC found that autism spectrum disorder affects an estimated 1 in 44 children in the United States today, and that the total costs per year for children with ASD in the United States were estimated to be somewhere between $11.5 billion and $60.9 billion in 2011 dollars. That's a huge order of magnitude of variation, but it's also a huge order of magnitude of an issue. And this significant economic burden, it represents a variety of both direct and indirect costs, from medical care to special education to lost parental productivity. See, children and adolescents with ASD had average medical expenses that were about 6 times higher than the costs of children without ASD. And in addition to the medical costs, intensive behavioral interventions for children with ASD can sometimes cost $40,000 or $60,000 per child per year. Ultimately, ASD is a developmental disability caused by differences in the brain. And scientists believe there are multiple causes of ASD that may act together to change the most common ways people develop. But there's so much that we as humans don't know and need to learn about the causes and how to interact with these wonderful people. Regardless, the CDC also reports that the abilities of people with ASD can vary very significantly. For example, some people with ASD may have advanced conversation skills, like Alexis Weinman, whereas others may be nonverbal. And some people with ASD need a lot of help in their daily lives, while others can work and live with little to no support, like Elon Musk. ASD often begins before the age of 3 and can last through a person's life, although symptoms may improve in some cases over time. And some children show ASD symptoms within the first 12 months of life. But making the diagnosis more difficult, the CDC reports that in other people, symptoms may not show up until 20 months of age or even later. While research shows that sometimes early intervention can lead to positive outcomes later in life for people with autism, but for many people, they're not even diagnosed until they're adolescents or even adults, which means that people with ASD might not get the early help that they could use or need. As children with ASD become adolescents and young adults, they may have difficulties developing and maintaining friendships or communicating with peers and adults or understanding what behaviors are even expected of them in school or on the job. They may come to the attention of healthcare providers because they also have other conditions such as anxiety or depression or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which occur more often in people with ASD than in people without ASD. What all of the above CDC data should tell you is that diagnosing ASD can be incredibly difficult, especially since there's no medical test like a blood test that can diagnose the disorder. So what happens when a beautiful child is diagnosed with ASD? The CDC reports that current treatments for ASD seek to reduce the symptoms that interfere with daily functioning and quality of life. But the treatment plans usually involve multiple professionals and have to be catered to the unique issues and challenges of the individual. A study that was done by Harvard Medical School suggested that the brain scans taken of babies while in utero may help predict future cases of autism. This study examined MRIs of 39 fetuses whose mothers were each about 25 weeks along in their pregnancies. And of those 39 babies, 9 of them were later diagnosed with autism. And the study reported that the children all had significantly larger insular cortexes than the children who did not have autism. And the insular cortex is a part of the cerebral cortex of the brain and is responsible for many of the different processes, including self-awareness and empathy, and maybe even how you perceive your environment and make decisions. Look, we don't know all of the causes of ASD. And there may be many different factors that make a child more or less likely to have autism spectrum disorder, including environmental, biological, and genetic factors. There are lots of studies being done out there. I mean, for example, in a recent study, there was a conclusion that most scientists agree that genes are one of the risk factors that might make a person more or less likely to develop ASD. And children who have a sibling with ASD seem to be at a higher risk of also having ASD. But it's not always the case. And we've discovered that individuals with certain genetic chromosomal conditions, such as Fragile X syndrome or tuberous sclerosis, can have a greater chance of having ASD. And there's other medical and medicinal and environmental circumstances that all seem to be coming together, but creating confusion because of their diversity. So the CDC is actually working on one of the largest U.S. studies to date. It's called the Study to Explore Early Development, SEED. And SEED is looking at many possible risk factors for ASD, including genetic, environmental, pregnancy, behavioral factors. But you see, my brothers and sisters, autism is not just important in the scientific and in the behavioral worlds. It's profoundly important on the theological level. When Greek Orthodox Archbishop Opilophorus heard my guests tonight present their incredible work at the recent Leadership 100 conference, he immediately took the microphone and urged every Orthodox parish to begin a ministry that's focused in this area. Now, what's interesting to me is when I was doing research, in 2010, Dr. Stephen Matthew and Jairaj Pandian published a paper entitled, and let me quote, "Newer Insights to the Neurological Diseases Among Biblical Characters in the Old Testament." End quote. See, in their scientific review of figures in the Holy Bible, the authors posed the fascinating hypothesis that based on biblical descriptions now, the famous legendary Israelite warrior and judge Samson, who possessed immense physical strength that he used for 20 years against the Philistines, himself had autism. Indeed, just a few days ago at the beginning of April's Autism Awareness Month, His All Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew I stated, and I quote, "Every man is the beloved of God. Christ identified himself with the existentiality and socially weak and the struggling and the marginalized people of his time. The Church of Christ is a place of experience and promotion of the uniqueness and the diversity of the humane face and the communion of persons." He went on to say, and I quote, "We honor doctors, psychologists, and researchers, all the sensitive and noble souls who love and help their fellow human beings." But he went on to finally conclude, and again I quote, "We provide significant support to many children on the spectrum of autism through an appropriate and specialized approach, education, and care. We create for them and their familiars positive conditions and prospects of development. In this way, their world is illuminated and expanded. Life is shared, and communication is accomplished in a very, very unique way." My brothers and sisters, this is our moment. This is our opportunity. This is our chance to embrace this noble ministry and pursue a vision of service that our Lord gave us. So we're going to take a short break right now, and when I return, I'm going to have the amazing privilege to introduce to you the people that are behind two incredible ministries called Love Michael, and if you're looking it up on the internet, that's L-U-V Michael, not L-O-V-E, and U.S. Autism Homes, and we're going to all learn from Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Biondi exactly what we can do to become better advocates regarding those with autism. Remember, we'd love to hear your questions or comments, so please feel free to call in tonight at 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. So let's take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Bill will be right back, but the lines are open if you want to ask a question or offer your thoughts. The number is 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO.
No end of books these days offer us techniques for self-improvement. But in the newest release from the Ancient Faith store, Gratitude in Life's Trenches, Robin Phillips takes a different tack. He shows us that God meets us where we are, in the pain and heartache of the present moment. Instead of looking for a way to escape from hardship, we can cultivate an attitude of gratitude, peace, and self-acceptance that will transform our experience of suffering. Drawing on his own experiences and his work as a consultant in the behavioral health industry, as well as stories of saints and sufferers, teachings of the fathers, and recent discoveries in neuroscience, Phillips shows us that the journey to personal well-being is one we can all travel, regardless of the hardships we may face. To find this book and others like it, you can go to store.ancientfaith.com. Again, that is store.ancientfaith.com.
Stewardship Calling is back, and we are ready for your call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Here again is Bill Marianis.
Welcome back to Stewardship Calling and our first Wednesday program, where my special guests are Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Biondi, and we're exploring the why and the vision of Love Michael and how we can serve those with autism. Remember, we'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to call in at 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. So let me start by introducing my guest. Our first special guest is Dr. Lisa Liberatore, who's a board-certified otolaryngologist. Now, I had to specify that because I had to call my dear friend Dr. Victor here in Atlanta to have him help me pronounce this, because I can't ever get this right. I mean, for those of you who like me struggle over that wonderful word, that's an ENT, that's an ear, nose, and throat specialist. But her husband, Dr. Dimitri Cassadis, is also a board-certified urologist. And Lisa and Dimitri were inspired by their autistic son, Michael, who's age 24, to found two nonprofit organizations, Love Michael in 2015 and U.S. Autism Homes in 2019. Dr. Liberatore stepped away from a very successful private practice. In fact, I know one of her patients who bragged about her. But after 25 years of service, she stepped away to focus on a crisis that was affecting her son and thousands of others on the autism spectrum. Now, the statistics for adults on the autism spectrum are incredibly alarming, with a 90% underemployment and unemployment rate and an over 400% higher suicide rate. This is an intense need for attention to this problem. And Dr. Lisa's passion to help her son and others in the same situation has led to impressive early success of both nonprofit programs that we're going to discuss tonight that really are focused on providing a life of dignity and purpose for autistic adults well beyond the lives of their parents. Now, both of these 501c3s that they formed are based in New York, and they focus on creating meaningful work and alternative shared living opportunities. And the goal is really to create a sustainable model to be able to offer this opportunity to all who need it, and then to be able to replicate it across the country. Now, Love Michael is a nonprofit granola bakery in Tribeca, New York, that's focused on training, educating, and employing autistic adults. So again, that's Love Michael, spelled L-U-V Michael, not L-O-V-E. You got to check out their website. It's fantastic. And you got to order their granola, because it too is amazing. But in addition to Love Michael's education of the autistic population in 2020, they launched a volunteer community service program. And this is a unique opportunity that I want every one of you thinking about in the context of what you can do and your parishes can do to be a part of this. This volunteer program engages high school and college students to advocate for autism acceptance while helping fundraise for the organization. And the volunteers are educated on the current issues that are facing the autism community and advocate digitally to help educate others. In the past 14 months alone, over 14,000 teenagers from 23 countries have engaged in meaningful conversations with over 300,000 people. The goal of this initiative is to really create a more empathetic and accepting worldwide community and reach as many people as possible. My brothers and sisters, this is an opportunity for every one of you that listen and for every one of your parishes to engage in. Now, the second nonprofit that they started was called U.S. Autism Homes that we're going to explore tonight. And it focuses on helping to solve the current housing crisis that impacts autistic individuals and their families. In other words, they're focused on answering the question, what happens when the parents are no longer around to care for their autistic child? And the USAH model is to combine a cluster of homes with a faith-based support community. And currently, USAH operates 3 homes in Southampton, New York, and has successfully transitioned individuals into an engaging, shared living experience. And the very first faith-based community partner was the Dormition of the Virgin Mary Greek Orthodox Church in Southampton, New York, and it provides a wonderful place for daily classes and programs, as well as a network of community members who are fueled by helping and serving others in need. This is an inspiration we can all take something and learn something about and learn from and engage in our own lives and our own parishes. So it's with great pleasure that I finally welcome, we've been trying to set this up for a while, Dr. Lisa Liberatore. Welcome to Stewardship Calling on Ancient Faith Radio.
Hi, Bill. Thank you. Wow. That was impressive.
When you listen to somebody else talk about what you've done, you feel exhausted, don't you?
You know, I loved how you, I loved the poem. I loved the piece that you, I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, God bless. All right, can you hang on for a second? Let me introduce your partner in crime, or I should say partner in good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me talk a little bit about Mark Biondi. So Mark's a senior executive with over 15 years of operations and marketing experience, but he started a career as a professional musician. He spent about 10 years touring and recording. He worked with notable artists such as Tom Morello, who some of you may associate with Rage Against the Machine, Autoslave Bruce Springsteen. He toured with Wayne Kramer from MC5 and Eric Hutchinson, and earned a platinum record for his work with Grammy Award winner John Legend, and a gold record for his work with Def Jam artist Nas. So he began working with the School of Rock in 2005 and held numerous positions throughout his time there. During the time, the School of Rock grew from only 5 units to over 150 locations in 8 countries. And he spent his time executing marketing and operational strategies to increase brand awareness and advocacy. But in 2015, Mark left his role as Senior Vice President of Operations and Marketing for School of Rock to work with a Chicago-based gourmet popcorn company. Beginning in 2015, he led a complete rebrand of the company, including a company name change and packaging design and realignment of channels to focus on giving to charities. Now, I'm going to stop for a second in this introduction. You all know, if you've listened to my programs before, that I believe that every one of us have a calling, and St. Paul made it clear, and the Lord made it clear, and everybody made it clear. And you have heard me say over and over again that oftentimes in our lives, we cannot see where the Lord is moving us. We cannot, as Steve Jobs said in his commencement address at Stanford, we can't connect the dots looking forward. Sometimes we can only connect the dots looking backward. And so if you look at Mark's incredible career through all of his experiences in growing and branding and marketing and moving into the food, you know, it's not going to come as much surprise to you that he found the opportunity after forming his own consulting group in 2020 that's really focused on mission-driven organizations, that he would be engaged in scaling Love Michael and U.S. Autism Homes, 2 organizations that have this incredible mission of providing a life of purpose and dignity to autistic adults. So, Mark, I want to welcome you to the Orthosphere version of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, namely Ancient Faith Radio, and my humble Stewardship Calling live program. Welcome, Mark.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill. Appreciate all the kind words, and really love the way you kicked off the show. I'd echo Dr. Lisa there. Really a great way to start things off and set the stage.
Well, thank you, brother. And if you're not careful, I may ask you to pull out an instrument and perform here. Okay, so just keep that in the back of your head here. Now look, Mark and Lisa. I'm sorry. You ready?
So I will. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, it's coming, dude. All right, so look, I gave both of your bios, but one thing that I've learned in life is that there is always so much more to the people than their kind of official CV. So I want to give each of you the opportunity to tell our listening audiences a little bit more about your upbringing and your background. So take it away.
Should I go first?
Why don't you?
Sure.
All right. I was born in Flushing, New York City. I'm a New Yorker through and through. My
condolences.
My parents were in the fish market business, so merchants. Didn't really. I said at 5 years old I wanted to be a doctor and followed that path.
Wow. Wait.
Yeah.
Do you remember what it was that
That triggered me to want to be
Yeah.
a doctor? The pediatrician that would come.
Ah.
I mean, at that time, the pediatrician made house calls. So there were three. I was the oldest of three at the time, and he would come and we'd all get sick at the same time. And I just
Of
loved
course.
Dr. Canetta. He would smoke a cigarette outside we lived in a three family home in the middle floor, and he would come up and I think he spent a little extra time because my mom was really beautiful.
That always helps. And she probably fed him too, didn't she? She probably fed him too.
She did. And he was a great, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. I couldn't hear. I mean, I didn't realize I couldn't hear. I thought I was really stupid in kindergarten. I didn't know my ABCs. I remember coming home and saying that. And it turned out my mom finally figured out, I think at 4, that I couldn't hear. And that was because my tonsils and my adenoids were so big.
Oh, wow.
They were blocking my ears. And so, and I was constantly in pain with my ears. So I commiserate highly. And then I had the surgery at Flushing General Hospital with maybe 10 other kids in the room. And all of a sudden, I was like, the whole world opened up. And I remember getting my first 100 on my quiz in first grade. And, I was like, wow, the magic of doing well in school. And it was really interesting. Well, and I became an ENT. It's pretty interesting.
So there's a logical connection with the ENT, right? You lived it.
Mm-hmm. I lived it. And I think you decide what field of medicine you want to go into because you gravitate to the people that you connect to. And ENT surgeons are like the nice surgeons. So general surgeons are sort of gruff. They're the nice surgeons. They're the ones who do make time for their family. There's a blend between seeing patients in the office and surgery. It's never boring. So that's a little bit about if anyone's interested in medicine. And that's kind of people don't realize that you kind of rotate through the different fields and you realize who you connect to. And I connected to those those physicians.
You really felt it. And just as an aside, when you were talking about it, you parallel path, right? So like when I was 5, I had to have tonsils removed, and I remember that whole trauma and with all the kids together. What I loved about the ENT was that and I remember this vividly, his diagnosis to the nurses in the hospital was that I could have all the ice cream I wanted.
Yeah.
And
they always said that. Me too. They said, what if I tell you can have all the ice cream you want for 3? I mean, that was, I guess, the way doctors were trained then. But when they told me that they were going to sponge bath me, I almost had to connect. I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah. That's that. Yeah, I agree with you now. Now you're bringing back a bad memory. Okay. You just ruined it for me.
Anyway, my husband and I met in first year of, we went to college. We met at first year pre-med chemistry lab.
Oh, wow. Okay. I thought it was going to be med school, but it was actually undergrad.
No, we met freshman year. We ended up living 5 blocks away from each other. Never knew each other. He went to Bronx Science. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. And he took me to a Greek dance for our first date. I never met a Greek person, so
a little traumatic, I would think.
Yeah, it was funny. It was fun. But the thing that's really funny, because I've listened to your interview about finding your purpose, was, it was really difficult to get into medical school. It was really difficult to get into residency. ENT is one of the most competitive residencies, and 6 years. And I feel like all of that kind of prepared for the endurance and the stamina and the positive delayed gratification. Because raising an autistic child is a marathon, and you have to really have endurance. So I feel like it prepared, and all of that was nothing compared to I feel the amount of energy and stamina it takes to raise an autistic child, especially one, that you described, 2 or 3 level.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think this is the part of the story that we all need to hear a little bit more about, and we're going to have an opportunity to talk about that. But what I appreciate is so much of what you do, but I also appreciate how you've connected the dots of your life, and how one kind of thing led to another kind of thing that led to another kind of thing that prepared you for the next thing and the next thing that followed. And here you are taking it to just a massively higher level. And I just want to say, for the benefit of everybody you've helped and the people you're going to help, God bless you for that, and your willingness to engage on that marathon journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an inspiration. All right, Mark, that's a tough one, dude. I don't know how you're going to be able to, compare to that story.
Dr. Lisa.
I mean, come on, you're going to have a medical problem. You're going to have
Is there a commercial break? You have to go.
Yeah. I'm sure there's an inspirational story about how you got into music, right? Because there's always, all of us musicians have a story, right?
Sure. So, I'm a Jersey boy. I was born in Belleville, New Jersey. And I'm the youngest of three. And my older brother, who is much older than me, was a drummer. And so I grew up just thinking that's what you did. And so from the age of 3 years old, I just always played music. And I fell in love with it. And so I was the type of kid that would come home from school and just practice for hours. And I had really super supportive parents who were just let me do it. They were, it didn't bother them. And I would play for hours and hours a day.
What'd you play?
And so, drums is my main instrument.
Okay.
I was just a huge classic rock fan. I fell in love with, Led Zeppelin 2 on an 8-track tape. And,
I think I still have that 8-track tape, so don't make fun of that, okay? I think I still have it here.
It's a great one.
It's
The
a classic.
8-track was great,
Yeah.
Middle of a song, it would click off and pop into the next
Right.
track. But it was really that was my love, and I so going to school, music was just always front and center for me, and really in my 4th year of college, I got the offer to go and play in just a bar band, and I was like, I have to do this. It was a way to sort of get my stage time. And so I started to, I pursued that, and I was playing probably 250 shows a year. I mean, it was,
that's just
really, get your 10,000 hours quickly.
Yeah. And listen, for
those
those listeners that don't know, when you are the drummer in a rock band or anything like that, you have the hardest work of all, because you have more stuff to set up than anybody else. The guitar player pulls out his axe, plugs it into the amp, and it's done. I mean, the drummer can be there for hours setting it all up and getting it right. So if you're doing that many gigs in a year, you got to be exhausted.
We were fortunate, Bill, that we started to get pretty popular, and eventually was able to get a crew to help me do that, which is really nice. But many years of gigs, setting up, being the first one there and the last one to leave, and but through that, I got to tour and to play, and I just music was just such a passion for me, and I met my wife at a benefit. The day I met my wife, I went home and said to my parents, I'm like, I found the girl I'm going to marry. It's kind of one of those love at first sight things, and but she was super supportive of my career. But once we had children, I didn't want to be on the road anymore. I wanted to watch them grow up. And so that's when I got an offer to get involved with the School of Rock, which was like this way to marry my love of music and then also be able to be close to home. And I had really run the band as a business, and we were, it was interesting, but we had a very successful company. We employed many people. We had 401ks, and we had health insurance, and you wouldn't think of that of a rock band, but that's everything I needed to learn about business I learned on the stage, which was interesting. And then got involved with School of Rock, and I used to own 5 franchises of that. I had an investment group with me, and they were really successful ones. Had a few in New York and a few in Jersey. And I, in that time, kind of how this all starts to come together is we would always want to create great experiences for the students, and we wanted to put some meaning to it. And so we partnered with the Ronald McDonald House one year, and we had the students tour and support to support Ronald McDonald House. And we got to visit the houses, and I started to see, where a lot of families were, the struggles that some parents and families were having. And even for myself with our own son, when my son was born, the nurse came in right after he was born and said, a couple hours later, and said, his surgery is going to be in 10 months. And my wife and I looked at each other like, what surgery? We didn't know. And so he was born with a cleft palate. And so we at the time, you couldn't tell on his face. You could it was his soft palate. So we, it was at the time, right? He's totally fine, and he's, but at the time it was like devastating. I remember feeling devastated and worried, and just, and they had us go to the Children's Hospital of CHOP in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. That's where we lived at the time. And then I saw families who were had much more to handle than we did, and that was a moment for me where I said, we're fortunate here, and we need to use our lives to help others. And that was like I remember in that waiting room seeing the other families and saying, we've got to do something to help. And my wife and I have always sort of carried that with us. So we brought that into School of Rock. We started to do, partner with different charities. That was always really important. Worked with I moved from School of Rock to the company I was at prior to starting my own. And that's where I met Lisa. We were at a benefit. I saw what she was doing, and I absolutely fell in love with it. We had, stayed really friendly throughout the years. And it was, one of those things I do believe was meant to be, because I decided to form my own company in February of 2020, kind of right before everything happened. Lisa,
good timing, dude. Good timing. Right.
Timing, really interesting, right?
Me too. Good timing.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys,
good timing to hire a consultant. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you guys got a lot of courage there. I got to tell you that.
Seriously, that I remember it. But the week I did start my company, Lisa called me that week, not knowing, and said, "I really need some help with this." And I'm like, Lisa, this is really crazy, but I just gave my notice. Like I started my own company, and I would love to work on this with you. And then my first day was March 16th, and I always share that story.
Wasn't March 19th the day that the world closed or something like that?
Yep.
I think Bill, I think it was the 16th, which was
it was the 16th. Okay, I knew it had a teen in there. Yeah.
My daughter, the 13th was her last day of school, where they sent everybody home. And then my first day was on Monday, and it was like, okay, let's figure it out. But and I do believe that's, we'll get into it more, but I do believe that was the catalyst to a lot of the things that we did. But, that was my story. Like you said, you don't always see how it's connecting, but, it just sort of unfolds. You get on the way, and the way starts to appear. And always wanted to do mission-driven work, and I've really not found anything quite like this. And feel really fortunate to work with Dr. Lisa and her, just her energy and compassion and drive to not only help Michael, but to help as many families as possible. Is really inspiring. So I feel really fortunate to have this opportunity.
Well, what's fascinating to me, and I so appreciate your being vulnerable enough to share your stories, and I didn't know the details of the stories. And again, while I can be very sorry that you had to grow up in New York and New Jersey, I mean, that's what those of us in the South say all the time. I can, yes, the war of northern aggression. Okay. Anyway, but all kidding aside, the truth of the matter is, listening to your stories and the way you articulately told it shows the connection, shows the natural progression that brings you to the point where, and again, I'm not trying to get overly dramatic, and we're not going to cue the drama music now, but I mean, where the Lord and the Holy Spirit says, okay, all right, I've given you your skills, I've given you experience, I've given you your challenges, I've given you what it's like not to be able to hear, what it's like to have a child in need, I mean, Okay, now let's go do something. And I'm going to put you together right when the world closes. I mean, this really needs to be a movie, right? Because there's a story here. So tell me just a little bit before we get into the details. There's just one more connection there. Tell me about how you all met and where and how you started working together.
Mark, I'm gonna tell it.
Please
So,
do.
so I'm on a board of an organization called the Nassau Suffolk Autism Society of America. So
Wait.
Say that slowly. We got Southerners that listen too. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Autism Society of America has branches all over the country.
Okay.
And so the Nassau and Suffolk chapter, which is Long Island based, I was asked to join the board by my friend Suzanne Reek, and she was participating in a fundraising opportunity, and it was a beautiful event. And she convinced the person who was doing it to give me a table. She goes, "You got to give Lisa a free booth." Now these booths were a lot of money for most of the sponsors, and so I showed up with one of our employees from Love Michael, Jenna, who absolutely love. And we had a very small table. I mean, I felt like I looked over and I saw this crazy balloon, like fiesta, beautiful packaging. Mark is like working the crowd. And I swear I felt like the Bad News Bears. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. She goes, let me bring you over. Let me introduce you to Mark Biondi. I'm like, please don't. Like, this is so embarrassing.
Yeah, he's going to ask me which booth is yours, and I don't want to point to it, right?
Yeah. And I've got like a little fold-out table,
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, this is Jenna." And Jenna, of course, does her magic, which is she's just, Bill, you have to have Jenna on the program.
Okay.
Jenna's been an employee of Love Michael since we started, and she is just so natural. She speaks from the heart. She just, she says, why do I love Michael? Because they understand my autism. And she's just amazing. She's an amazing, amazing person. Yeah. And she's so kind to the other employees that maybe don't have as much skill as she has. She's become a mentor. She's amazing. So I'm sure Mark really, like Mark, right? You had to really fall in love with Jenna. And,
for sure.
And said, right. And, when I told him what we were doing, I could see that he got it. It's like, okay, let's strip away all the fancy packaging and everything else. Like, what is it really that you're doing? And I think what we were doing was raw and real, and it wasn't fancy, but there was a lot of heart there. And I really respected what he was doing, which was this amazing company, which, I really hoped that we could be successful on a product. Like, I was hoping that we wouldn't have to go, please give us some money because we're so, whatever. I was like, let's sell a freaking amazing product. Everybody's going to love it. It's organic, it's handmade, it's artisanal, it's amazing. And I was really hoping that wasn't working out. So I kept in touch with Mark, and that's why, even though we're jumping ahead, but even though I had somebody on who was helping me with who had many years in the consumer packaged goods industry. I mean, he made many companies into multi-million-dollar companies. Mm-hmm. He could not figure out how to help. He could not, from his background, his skill set. I mean, he made Batten Bagels successful, Kate's Cookies, lots of companies at well-known names. And he could not figure it out. And I was sitting with him and I said, Ricardo, can we reach out to this gentleman, Mark Biondi? I mean, maybe we're going about it the wrong way. Maybe we should do like a Girl Scout model. Something's wrong. And I have to say that I think our strength is when when your ego is not in the way and you can just say, I need help. And I'm very happy that Ricardo said, yeah, sure, let's call him. Because he could have been, I can figure it out, whatever.
Right.
And that's when I called Mark. I'm going to call him right now and see if he picks up. And he's like, I can't believe you're calling me. Can we talk tonight? can we talk tonight? And I'm like, oh, what did I do? I called him at work. He's in trouble, whatever. And then that's when he said, I can't believe you called me. I literally gave notice today.
That is amazing.
Said, of course you did. Of course you did. Cause that's the way things work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting
is
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
It's funny that so Lisa's perspective, right, is here we had this, beautiful booth, and she thought, she had this, card table, but to me, it was what she was doing is what I wanted, right? Because that was real. What she was doing was really the impact, and I think we were attempting to have the impact, but that wasn't connecting with me. It just didn't connect. And so my perspective was, she's thinking, hey, I want that thing. And I'm like, I want that thing because I think that's the real impact is there, so it's just interesting to have those two stories.
Listen, I didn't know these stories, but I know this story. And the reason why I say that is, this is what the Holy Spirit does. Okay. I'm going to get theological for a second. This is what the Holy Spirit does. The Holy Spirit puts people, and Susan's a part of your story, and Jenna's a part of your story, and there's others that are part of your story, right? But the Holy Spirit puts people in positions to see each other. But here's the key that I don't want you to miss in y'all's stories, because too many people had that opportunity and would have walked away. Both of you showed humility. Right. So Lisa, you looked at it and said, I got the right intent, but and I got a great person, but we're just not executing. Right. And Mark, you said, look, I got this great, product here and I got this great pitch here, but there's just something more here. But you both showed the humility to say, I just need to do something different. I need to, and that's a very powerful skill set. And I think that may be, part of the glue that helps you do some of the amazing things you're doing. So I commend both of you. Now, before we get it, I want to get into the nuts and bolts, but I got one more human piece of the equation here, right? Lisa, please introduce us to Michael, your amazing and dear son. I saw a video, the namesake of Love Michael. Let the listeners get to know who Michael really is.
Well, Michael's 24 years old now.
Wow.
He is, he would be classified as in like the 3rd level autistic. So he has high needs in terms of support that he needs. And the reason is because he has difficulty with expressive language, which is he understands everything, but he can't express it. So you have somebody that's incredibly smart. I don't know how smart. I know he's super smart. Yeah. But he can't articulate it, which is so frustrating to him because most people, I mean, I just said to somebody who's one of his people that helps him, I said, I just wish I could get into his body for one day and just see what he's seeing, feel what he's feeling, and say, okay, when I do this, it means this, you stupid,
Yeah.
And he just can't, like, he has to be so dramatic before it's kind of his wishes are known. And I have plenty of stories from Michael, but Michael will definitely let you know. He'll let you know in many little ways until finally, and you don't realize until finally it's so dramatic that you're like, okay,
I'm paying attention now.
Be an altar. Right. He wants to be an altar boy. How did he tell us he wanted to be an altar boy?
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, he was, he has an older brother. Alexander's 1 year older than Michael. And, somebody asked me something about autism, and I want to make sure I remember to say this. We forget the siblings.
Yes.
And I think to young parents, if they want any advice, is it can't be all about the child with a disability. Like, you really, really, really have to shut up about autism and about, about whatever, because the other sib is important too. And it's very easy to feel, neglected. So Michael and Alexander are only 13 months apart.
Wow.
Alexander was a late speaker. He was very physical. the two of them would constantly be running after each other, pushing each other, and boys.
Yeah.
And Alexander was rough and tough, and he's not like that anymore. It's really funny, but he was so rough and tough on Michael. And Michael was always sick. Like Alexander would get sick. I never knew he was sick. Like he'd rub his nose and he's like, oh, he's got a double ear infection. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Michael, he didn't complain. You didn't know he was sick. When Michael got sick, he looked like he's on death's door. Like he would have to do a nebulizer. He couldn't breathe. Had to take him to the hospital. So what happened, so he had like a more fragile immune system, I would say.
Right.
But Alexander didn't say anything until after his second birthday. And then in his second birthday, all of a sudden, like full sentences came out, full sentences. So when Michael wasn't speaking, I didn't really think much of it. I thought, okay, well, his brother doesn't speak, this is boys. That's what they say. So when the pediatrician recommended early intervention, she says, if he's not speaking, it's his birthday's November. If he's not speaking by January, let's get him evaluated. I thought that was just to get some speech. And you're thinking, it's 1997 now. So it's a big difference. I mean, we were really in the autism awareness phase then. And Mark and I, most people now in this field will say, we're way beyond autism awareness. We need to go to autism acceptance, and we need to move past awareness. We know, we're aware of it. But that time there was no awareness, and I didn't have awareness of it. So when he got diagnosed, it was a pretty big blow. It was a full day of just observation, and at the end, they say, he's got PDD. Again, words we don't use anymore. Pervasive developmental disorder. What is that? Well, there's a spectrum of autism, and then you don't really hear much after that. Right. What autism? Rain Man? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean for him? What is that? It's just and I mean for parents that are going through it, I'm sure all of this is very familiar.
Yeah, it's raw.
It's very raw, and there's, like you said, there's still, we still don't know why, and you think, oh, did I have too much sushi when I was pregnant? What did I do? Right? You had to be at fault. You did something wrong. And then your relatives, your mom and my mom and my dad are like, it's not on our side of the family. It must be on their side of the family. It's genetic. Well, what does everybody have genetic? Because it's 1 in 44. Is it a genetic epidemic? I don't think so.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, Alexander was his best teacher. Everything that Alexander did, Michael wanted to do.
Okay.
Alexander wanted to be an altar boy at 9 years of age. And Michael was sitting in the pew with us, and it was Holy Thursday, and
oh my goodness, what a service for anybody, let alone somebody on the spectrum.
2 hours, right?
Oh my goodness, yeah, that's a tough one.
So we're gonna. Well, I had a system. He actually really liked church, Michael. He liked church. He really did, and I have a system that I would make little circles I make like 100 circles, and then as the liturgy was happening, I'd make a little happy face. And what I would do with the happy face was it was giving him a sense of time, like when is this going to be over? So I'd make the happy faces according to the liturgy, and I actually still have the Holy Week Bible from those with those stickies, tons and tons of happy faces, right? So we forgot the Holy Week book for Thursday, and Dimitri went to go get it in the back of the church, and Michael, he thought Michael was coming behind him, so he didn't really pay attention. And then all of a sudden, Michael beelined like down the center of the church. And Mike, he's so fast. He beelined down the front. He goes right down into the altar. I'm like, my mouth is opening. Dimitri doesn't know what to do. There's all these strangers, because they only come, some people only come twice a year. So all these strangers don't know who Michael is. And then all of a sudden there's a lot of noise and chaos. And then all of a sudden he comes out of the door on the side with a full altar boy uniform on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And he comes and he
powerful.
stands right next to me, and he's like, again, dummy, I'm trying to tell you something. Did I need to do this? You know?
Yeah.
So that's how he told us he wanted to be an altar boy, and he's still an altar server, and he's the only altar server with a big smile.
Yes, as a former altar boy, I can tell you that's not a common phenomenon.
No.
How powerful that.
Yeah.
You know what a beautiful picture. I mean, all of us listening to this story could literally see that happening, right? And what a great testament to him saying, "Okay, do you get it now? This is what I'm talking to you about."
Right.
Oh,
and
man.
of course, I apologized to afterwards. You know, Father Alex, and he was a young priest there. I mean, we met when Michael was got his 40-day blessing. So we've literally been part of this for 25 years. And I said, Father Alex, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He goes, Lisa, you never apologize for a child that runs to the church.
Great advice. Great. I mean, sage advice from somebody who knows that stuff. So that's good stuff. Oh, well, I mean, look, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I know it's in some respects, there's so much more to the story of Michael than, we could probably fill a whole program just talking about him and all of the different, experiences and hijinks. But I mean, the picture that you painted, Lisa, I hope that everybody will keep it in their head. Like, imagine being so high functioning and so aware and so thoughtful, but you cannot communicate. And see the difficulty you would have if you were unable to communicate your very intentional and thoughts, including emotions, et cetera. And that paints a very powerful picture of Michael that I hope everybody will keep in their minds.
Right.
Well,
So that's why we had to do what we had to do, because the world is not going to go that extra distance to try to figure out, well, what kind of job will he have and what kind of,
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, the connections here. So we're blessed to have this house here on Lake Lanier and whatnot. And the people we bought it from were people who had a son who was on the spectrum. And when we were touring the house, we noticed that they had the largest proliferation of TVs I have ever seen in my life. I mean, there was a TV everywhere with, devices on it. And they explained that was kind of, one of the things that they needed for the stimulation. And this is I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We'll do this after the break. But, the reason why they had to sell this is because of the housing issue that we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I want to segue over to a really a wonderful topic and kind of how we got to meet each other. I want both of you to tell us about Love Michael. Again, that's LUV Michael. Folks, go to their website after the program. Tell us about its why. Tell us about its mission. Tell us about its operations. You still there?
Mark? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I didn't know if there was I thought you were going to a break.
No. I just want to hear about it. I want everybody to understand what it's all about.
Love Michael's a nonprofit organization. Its mission is to train, educate, and employ autistic adults, and to provide a life of dignity and purpose for autistic adults beyond the lives of the parents. So there's multiple aspects of Love Michael, as you described in the beginning. It started with simply a bakery, which was a platform to train, educate, and employ individuals on the spectrum. And we made a high quality product, which was sold in over 60 stores. And we realized that really was not going to sustain the organization. And Mark's amazing contribution to the organization was to realize that what we needed to do was to help train and educate society about what the plight of the autistic adult was, and to help teenagers and college students who needed community service hours. And in exchange for giving them community service hours, we asked them to come on this journey with us to understand what is the plight of the autistic adult and those statistics that you described. and to tell them about Love Michael and how much we're trying to help in this crisis. And in exchange, and then afterwards, after learning, to share that knowledge with family and friends, and those family and friends end up looking us up, making a small donation. A small donation, $35, $50, leads to sends a signal back to the bakery and our employees, who we call granologists, because they're specialists in making granola. They hand make granola for that person and a handwritten card, and so that person is not only sharing information, creating a more empathetic world, but they're also creating more meaningful work for our employees. And so that's what Love Michael is.
Yeah, and Bill, that's how earlier when we mentioned how the timing of everything. So here we are at the beginning of the pandemic, the world shuts down. I'm actually here in Chicago. Lisa's in New York. We're Zooming across the country saying, what do we do now? And, I heard something once, in constraint, you can get very creative. And it was really that constraint of the pandemic that forced us to look at everything that we were doing. We knew that the traditional model of selling, retail wholesale, that's like the great race to zero, right? It's a really tough, cutthroat world. And you would hear, Lisa say, hey, I didn't start this to create a granola sweatshop. We really wanted to make this amazing environment to train and educate our team, our granologists. So when the world shut down and we looked at everything we were doing, we just happened to look at our volunteer program, which was like really informal. It was maybe kids in the neighborhood who needed some community service hours for National Honor Society or to graduate. And they would say, hey, can we come down to the bakery and help out? And we'd sort of sign off on their hours. And we thought, well, what are they going to do in the pandemic? And we said, well, hold on a second. Here we are, training, educating, and our granologists inside the bakery, essentially preparing them for the world of work. And we started to think about, well, that's half of the equation, because what world are they going into? And I think the bigger issue is it's the rest of the population that needs to have a better understanding of autistic people. And that's where we thought, what a great way to sort of mobilize the youth of now, not just in where we are in New York, but because we can go virtual. We spun up some technology really quickly. I think we were up and running, Lisa, in about 10 days, which is pretty amazing.
Wow. Yes.
And we started this platform, educating teenagers, teaching them a bit about being a better ally to the community, and then putting in an action step for them. Not only did they have to learn, but they had to go and share that information with people that they knew, so that there was an action that they're doing. And in that action, they would share, hey, I'm working with Love Michael. And they'd share a link we have a digital campaign page for each one of our volunteers. So they all have their own Love Michael campaign. And they share that. And if people make that donation, just like Dr. Lisa said, now our team has a reason to make granola. But there's so much more meaning to making that granola now, because that person's been educated. That person is an ally. And now they get to see the brand. And we didn't really know what to expect when we launched it, but all of a sudden, leads started coming in and people say, hey, I need volunteer hours. And before we knew it, we were working with schools and churches. And you had mentioned some numbers at the beginning of the call. And now we're over 17,000 volunteers.
Oh my
in 40
gosh.
countries.
17,000?
Yeah, and so now you have this movement, and we continue to, improve and iterate on the education piece. So we have some really amazing education for folks, and students across the world are getting a chance to understand this community. And our hopes are that when they encounter families, autistic people, that they sort of take a beat, they take a moment, and there's a little bit more understanding there, and there's a little less judgment. And there's a little bit more of going towards something, right? When you don't understand something, you seldom move towards it, you move away from it. But we hope that this is that sort of butterfly effect, that people just start to become a little bit more accepting, a little more understanding, and we all get a little closer together.
All right, this is really powerful, but what I'm going to do is we're going to take a short break right now, give you guys a chance to take a drink and reflect on thoughts, because I want to get a little bit deeper in a couple of these incredible topics you talk about. So everybody, we're going to take a short break right now. When we get back, we're going to hear more from these two incredible people, Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Biondi. Remember, we would love to hear your questions and calls. You can call in at 1-855-AF-RADIO. That's 1-855-237-2346. Let's take a short break, and we'll be right back.
Bill will be right back, but the lines are open if you want to ask a question or offer your thoughts. The number is 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO.
Are you curious about the Orthodox Christian faith?
Do you have questions about Orthodox Christianity that you can't trust strangers in internet forums to answer?
Are you an Orthodox Christian looking for a reliable first place to send your interested friends?
Do you need help finding an Orthodox church near you? My name is Father Paul Hodge. I serve in the Antiochian Orthodox Christian Archdiocese of North America.
My name is Father Joseph Lucas. I serve in the Orthodox Church in America.
My name is Father Anthony Cook. I serve in the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America.
And I'm Father Andrew Stephen Damick, Chief Content Officer of Ancient Faith Ministries and a priest of the Antiochian Archdiocese. And we're the Orthodox Intro team. If you're looking for a first stop online to get an introduction to the Orthodox faith,
a place to get answers to questions from qualified Orthodox Christian clergy,
a place to send your friends and not just toss them into the chaos of the internet,
a place to get help finding an Orthodox parish and get plugged into an actual Orthodox community, then point your web browser at orthodoxintro.org. OrthodoxIntro.org is a free service of Ancient Faith Ministries and made possible by our donors. It's an Orthodox on-ramp to the Christian life. Again, that's OrthodoxIntro.org.
Stewardship Calling is back, and we are ready for your call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Here again is Bill Marianis.
So welcome back to Stewardship Calling in the first Wednesday program, where my special guests, Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Biondi, and we're exploring the why and the vision of Love Michael and the U.S. Autism Homes movement. Now, let me just segue into that, because y'all are tracking this critical part of the autism challenge, namely housing. And in a kind of an amazing twist of faith, I got an email from Sylvia from Chicago. That's all I'm going to say. And here's what she said. And as I was reading this email, I'm thinking, boy, if ever there was an answer, we're going to hear about it tonight. She said, my sister and others who have cognitive disabilities cannot live independently, as there are challenges of transportation, supervision, safety, and isolation. She goes on to say, most importantly, everyone needs to have friends. That is to say, friends who enjoy each other's company while engaging in conversations and activities that are developmentally appropriate. All too often, people with disabilities feel lonely because they can't relate to anyone they know on their level. And here's her suggestion. Okay, so listen carefully. She goes, perhaps the Orthodoxy of America can pool funds together to buy land and build a facility. You know, it'd be nice to have it near a major airport, as residents would come from many places and their families would be visiting. It would be nice to have it near a medical access facility. It would be nice to have it in an area near a thriving Orthodox community. It would need to be near a community where professionals live that could be hired to work there, and maybe each resident would pay to live there through some gated community or retirement complex, and fees could be adjusted on a sliding scale if someone didn't have the funds to live there. And the community needs to make sure that non-Orthodox live there, and a resident would be there to abide and set all the rules. And I'm sitting here thinking, boy, if ever there was a lead in to what you guys are doing. So that was it. And I basically responded to her. I said, Sylvia, listen carefully. So take it away. Lisa and Mark, tell us about U.S. Autism Homes. I keep saying USA Homes, but anyway.
Well, you know, for wow, that is, I amazing, that question. So
yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's perfect. So, I mean, in following the trajectory of Michael's life and others in this, normal part of life is you look for a job, and then a normal thing is to try to find independent life. You want to, you're 20 years old, you want to move out of your parents' house. And again, I mentioned that Michael doesn't have a lot of language, so he did it in a very outward way to express the want, the desire to live independently. And I mentioned the relationship we had for 25 years with the Dormition of the Virgin Mary in Southampton, New York. So I had seen several different models or heard about several different concepts. And one concept that really had not been done, but I was interested in, was the idea of a cluster of homes with a faith-based supportive community in an interdenominational way.
Yeah.
And that the faith-based supportive community would provide the real answer to what would happen when the parents are no longer there. Because organizations are gonna, who knows? There's an organization that could be around and then they're bought up by somebody else or they fold. But hopefully houses of worship are going to be there for many generations.
Yes.
So that was the key. And I didn't really know what the role of the faith-based supportive community is, but I reached out to Father Constantine and Father Alex, and we sat down and we talked about Michael and the fact that, like the person who sent the question in, he needs friends. And Marcus heard me say, friendships are priceless. You can't put a price on that. That's really the most important thing because, Michael is not interacting at the same level with neurotypical guys his age. I mean, everybody, they can maybe do sports together but just sit down and it's just a different interaction he has with his brother and with others his age. He needed his own, the words you hear people use is tribe. He needed his own tribe. Right. So Father Constantine and Father Alex, of course, said yes. They're like, sure, whatever you need us to do. So we sat down and we kind of sketched out an idea, an outline. What would the faith-based supportive community do? Well, it provides a network of support. There's, volunteers and people generally committed to doing good things, right? Fulfilling some kind of ministry, right? It has programs. So our church is very active, and other churches have festivals and we have concerts and art shows, and they also have plenty of space that's underutilized. Most of the churches are empty during the week. They're just empty. Could we have a classroom that we could use to do some classes? We also have a commercial kitchen, so we could do some cooking classes. So we kind of saw that we could create classes and experiences. And then lastly, was a spiritual resource and coordination for whatever that might look like for the individuals. And it's been so fascinating because Father Constantine has said this multiple times now, that although it seems like we were asking the church for help, we've actually been transformative to the church.
Bingo. That is exactly it. This is the church. You are the church. You are living. Look, I mean, we tend to think of church as being this, 1.5 hours or 2 hour, depending on where you go, 3 hour service kind of thing, right? Once a week. You are showing the church alive 7 days a week and in serving real purpose in this regard. And I'm going to say this again at the end. I don't want to, because we have a caller that I want to get to too. But what I want everybody that listens to this program, regardless whether you're listening to it live or you listen to it later as a podcast, I'm challenging you. I'm imploring you to think about exactly what Dr. Lisa just said right now and how this could be a perfect ministry for your church, no matter where it is, right? You can build the network. You can have the programs. You already have the space in the kitchen. You can create create the classes and you can provide that spiritual resource. And this is a perfect ministry. And that's why, by the way, Archbishop Opila Forrest went nutsos when he heard your thing, because he actually saw how this is exactly how the church can be the church more than just a place that you go to. So how does that now? And how did that segue into what you've actually accomplished with U.S. Autism Homes?
Well, what we ended up doing was buying the first house, and we bought a house walking distance to the church, and we renovated it to be able to accommodate 4 young men and a living caregiver, so 5 bedrooms. And we dug a little basement to put a little gym in there. And we said, okay, let's start. We started with my son, Michael, and Michael's, my sister's son is 3 years older than Michael. He also got diagnosed, and he's very verbal. He's very social. Everybody wants to live with Christian. Christian is like, he's like the mayor, you know, he remembers everybody's name. He sings beautifully. But he and Michael, even though they're very different, they communicate and they love each other on such a level. I mean, it's beautiful to see the love. They and Christian has a beautiful voice. He can sing like Andrea Bocelli. He's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he really is amazing. And Michael is his like #1 fan. I mean, Michael looks at him as if he's like a rock star, superstar.
Yeah.
So then we wanted to find the other 2, right? We wanted 4 people. And so we started classes at the church, and people started to hear about us through Love Michael.
Right.
And that I was doing this. So Love Michael already set up some credibility for me. Like I was doing something good, and what is she doing now? And so we started some classes, and 2 families actually started pulling their sons out of school 2 days a week to come to our classes. So so they got to know each other, and basically it took a year. And I think it really does take a year for the guys to get to know each other and for the parents to feel comfortable. And
trust has to be built.
And Christian's of course very verbal, and they wanted Dimitri and Eric to be their roommates. They wanted them to be their housemates. And we didn't know how it was going to be. It was, and they moved in one after another, first Dimitri and then Eric. And Mark and I had to learn so much about the bureaucracy. In other words, we were ready for them before all the social service stuff could happen. So it took longer, and the guys were getting very frustrated, and we had to tell Eric, this is the way this is the way that it's going to happen. You have to come 1 day, then 2 days, kind of stretch it out to try to help him understand and deal with it. But they've all been now together for a year, and it's been amazing to see the growth. First of all, they've all lost like 15, 20 pounds.
That gym is really working, huh?
The gym is working. A lot of the guys had very bad eating habits. 2 of the guys didn't eat any fruits and vegetables when they came in. They said, we don't eat fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And, one of the biggest learning was around food.
Yeah, nutrition.
Nutrition. I mean, these guys, we found that the best thing is for them to eat like every 3 hours, something. So they have breakfast, then 3 hours later they have a snack, then 3 hours later they have their lunch, and 3 hours later they have a snack, and 3 hours later they have a dinner. And that way they're not stressing about, is there going to be food? Literally the refrigerator has like a meal prep, array, and all the meals are nutritionally balanced. And the parents are shocked. They're like, Eric texted me that he had asparagus and salmon and quinoa. Like I almost slept, I almost fell off my chair. But it's them, but they're learning from each other, so they're learning, their self-esteem is improved, their health is improved, their language is improved, Michael's language is improved. They've learned to be self-advocates. A lot of the young people on the spectrum have been taught to be compliant.
Yes. Subservient almost, right?
subservient and compliant. And it was so interesting to help them understand that they don't have to say yes.
Right.
They don't have to say they like it. You like this? Yeah. Really? You like this? And then finally now, they're like, I don't really like window washing so much. I'm like, that's fine. You know, you tried it, you know, so, but they also had no experience with the church. So not everybody's Greek Orthodox, right?
Correct.
And so some of the guys are, one of the guys is Christian, Catholic. The other one is Catholic and Jewish, and they love the church.
Yeah.
And I said to the parents, are you okay with that? And they said, Lisa, like, they're happy.
Yep.
They never had this opportunity before. They all want to be altar servers, and they are.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I wish we can do, we need to do some video.
You do.
And show you what a day in the life looks like.
That would be a great thing. A day in the life. All right, let me ask you to pause for just a second, because I want to come back to this, because what you're talking about is so powerful. But we have Margaret from Palm Springs, California on here, and she was really inspired by what you're all talking about. I believe she has a couple of nonverbal children. So Margaret, are you there? Can you join us now?
I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you perfectly fine. Margaret, let me introduce you to Dr. Lisa and Mark. What is it that you want to ask them or talk to them about, or what insights can they share with you?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Lisa and Mark. I feel like I want to do like a happy dance and like cry and like hug you guys. And I'm just so grateful. We have 3 kids, but 2 of them are adopted. One's non-speaking and one's unreliably speaking, which is a term I think some people don't know very much. But just when you're talking about compliance, I'm so glad that you're talking about stuff like this, because I come into contact with so many kids whose words have become unreliable because they have been taught to be so compliant. And so what we really mean is I hear your words, but either they're scripted or I just can't trust that they're how you actually feel. And I just wanted to comment on how powerful I think it is that you guys are educating future generations of typical people on how they can understand and interact with and advocate for the autistic population. And I was talking with my husband the other night about how often, like, my kids are asked to modify themselves for the sake of everybody else. Modify your behavior. Don't be so loud. Don't move in that way. It makes us uncomfortable. Meet these requirements. And I was like, what if we just started helping other people, modify their understanding? Yeah,
so you got the wrong person being modified, right?
Exactly.
Right, yeah. And so I'm just super duper thankful that you guys are kind of on this track, because this is something we talk about often, even though my children are, 8, is we want them to have a future that has relationships in it. We want them to have a future that has where we don't overwhelm their will, where they get to choose. Like, we want them to have choices. We want them to have hope. And I just see the way that you're approaching the autistic community is so orthodox, right? Like, God never overwhelms our will, but He is there supporting. And that's missing a lot of places. So I'm really thankful. And I don't know if I have any questions, but I'm definitely going to be like investigating more. This is my field too. Like, I work and love and fight hard for non-speaking people. That group of people is my jam. I love them so much.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in.
Last thing I wanted to say is I love how you just so casually talk about Michael's intelligence, because in my experience, the overwhelming majority, regardless of what their bodies are telling us, are so incredibly intelligent and cognitively intact. And it's just almost like this, I view it as almost like this forced monasticism, like their body's just not connecting with their brain to get those words out. And so I'm really thankful for that perspective. And you guys give me a lot of hope. So thank you. That was a long rant. Sorry.
No, I mean, that's, I think that's the most important thing is when people say, what is important to you? I said it's to give hope to younger families. Because it is, if somebody would have told me, it's going to be all right. And, I mean, it would have, it makes the journey that much more, doable, because you're like, it's okay. It's okay. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. But then you're like, is it going to get better? And are we still going to have to tippy toe around everybody and walk around like on eggshells? And I think that this young generation is pretty special. I mean, Mark and the team, they speak to, these teenagers are just, they're incredible. And that gives me hope that the world is going to be a much kinder and much more empathetic place.
Thank God.
It's beautiful to hear. Yeah, it's beautiful to hear you say that, Margaret. What you just shared, the concept that it's really the non-autistic mind that has to be changed. And I remember having an experience with an organization called Surfers Healing, and it was this one perfect day on the beach for autistic kids to get to go out and surf with folks. And it's really such a beautiful thing. And the founder said to me, just a day where these families just to get to be a normal family on the beach, not the family with an autistic child. And that really struck me. And I thought, well, that's everyone else's problem. And that's why I think it's so critical that, it's really about this education piece and creating more understanding. So really beautiful to hear you say that. And it's exactly why we do what we do.
And Margaret, let me celebrate you for a second, because God's giving you a gift here, lady. I just got to tell you that right now, okay? But you said two phrases that I wrote down because they were so impactful and powerful that I need to think about them, after we're over. You used the great expression about not overwhelming their will. And then you created this beautiful metaphor of forced monasticism, which kind of is it's just really deep. And I want people to think about that. I mean, again, remember back to what we talked about before the break. I mean, imagine having an incredible intellectual mind, and for whatever reason, you just don't speak the language of the people around you. They're speaking a foreign language. Now, the language they're speaking is the language you and I are speaking right now, right? But to people in a different place, it's just incredible. So this notion of working with people in a way so that we don't overwhelm their will, and I would even submit to you, don't overwhelm God's will in this exercise, I think is really powerful. And I want to celebrate you and your words in addition to whatever else it is that you're doing. So God bless you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Well, and I hope that one of the things that happens from this, Margaret, is that after we're done here, that you reach out to Lisa and Mark at Love Michael, and you connect and you find a way that y'all can work together. Because really, what we're trying to do with this program is to really bring that greater sense of awareness, so that those of us who are, as an aside, I have a sister who's disabled, right? And I used to, at one point I said, so what's it like being handicapped? And she laughed at me, goes, you're the one that's handicapped. And it's like, so I think in some respects, I think that's the problem. We the ones who think we aren't are actually suffering from this. And so we want to bring that awareness to people. And the second thing we want to do is the call to action, to get people to do something about it, so that we can be not only share the great stories, but also do something to help in whatever way God has given us the gifts to do it. And Margaret, I commend you that, and I hope that you'll connect up with Dr. Lisa and Mark afterwards and find a way to do that. And while we're doing that, Mark and Lisa, give, if you don't mind, sharing online or over the air here, your email addresses so that Margaret and others can reach out to you.
Yeah, mine's simple. I prefer just email me at lisa@luvmichael.com. lisa@luvmichael.com.
And then probably best to get me at info@lovemichael.com.
Oh, so you're the information source of all, you're the font of all wisdom at Love Michael. Is that what we're saying here? All right, Margaret, now you've got info at lovemichael.com and Lisa at lovemichael.com, and you're going to connect with these two incredible people. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure, and I will send you guys an email.
Great, Margaret. Thank you.
So,
right.
Bill, people are asking what's, how do I get started?
Right.
With a U.S. Autism Homes? Can we do one? What's the first thing? And inevitably, people talk about a house. And I just, I keep saying the same thing. So I think it's important to say it's not about the house. Anybody can do a house. Anybody can have a nice house. Mark and I were just laughing about a Seinfeld episode, where he didn't want to do the house tour. It's like bathroom, bedroom.
Yeah.
Bathroom, bedroom. I mean, what there is, in all joking aside, we put a lot of thought into the function of the house, and we create a therapeutic house, and we can talk. We've actually sat down, Mark and I, and there's 50 chapters right now on how to set up a U.S. Autism Homes model.
50 chapters?
50 chapters. 50 chapters.
Well, let's get this book out there. I mean, I'm just telling you.
Right.
I mean,
so 50 chapters, and we want to what we're going to start doing is we're being very disciplined, and once a week we're sitting down and doing like our own little podcast of like each chapter, right? So
great.
What's the difference between a U.S. Autism Homes house and a group home, or putting your head in the sand and just saying, no, I'm not going to die. I'm just going to keep raising my kid at home and pretend that's not going to happen, right? Which is the majority of what's happening, actually. It's more than 65%.
Really?
So that's what we're doing. And what after that comment by Archbishop El Pilaforos, what I said, we went back and we said, what does that mean? National ministry, what does that mean? What do we do? And we really feel that we've got the first house, we've got 2 other houses 5 minutes from that house, and we're set to, our goal is to move 3 young women into one house and 4 young men into the third house. And we have those families. We're on cue for that to happen. Barring,
awesome.
Barring social service bureaucratic delay, but we have a lot to work on. Just like we learned from the first house, this is like the next big learning. And I really feel until we really button up and solidify how to do this, it's really hard for us to say this is how you do it, right? So Mark and I really talked about this a lot, and with Father Alex and Father Constantine, and we think what's realistic is to have a September 2023 2-day workshop here in Southampton, where we invite 100 families with their supported clergy person. So say you have like the representative family who's going to kind of, take the lead with their supported clergy. And we're going to have a 2-day workshop. And at that time, we will have the 50 chapters fully, written and digitally and whatever. And
you'll do your day in the life of, so that the video can actually match the chapters and people can see how they interact with the house and each other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And then that will be an annual event, because there's going to be constant learning and tweaking, because there's so little research in adults on the spectrum. I mean, there's so little research. So that's part of what we do. We're doing research at the same time. I mean, just by tweaking things, by trying something, and, it's practical research.
Right.
So, So
well,
that's
you know
goal.
where this goes next, don't you? Because I'm always, Mark's the expert in this, but I'm always the scale up guy. Like, where does it go from here, right? So I think that, you're making me a little bit frustrated to have to wait 1.5 years for you to do this. So I'm just saying that, I wouldn't be too upset if you did it sooner, because sometimes the enemy of good enough is excellence, right? But I applaud your dedication to it. But I think at some point, this is a show that needs to go on the road. I mean, Margaret called in from California, and that's on the left coast from the right coast where you are, right? So there's a beautiful, beautiful story here. So what people ought to be looking forward towards is sometime in September of next year, right? That you're going to have an event where the book's going to be ready, the video's going to be ready, and the story will be outlined so that people can participate, right? Is that kind of what you're shooting for?
Yeah, for sure. And as Lisa mentioned, it's really so important for us to continue to flush out this model, and be able to be really thoughtful about how other churches and families can
absolutely
replicate something like this, because it does vary from state to state. Not to get on to the nitty gritty of it, but it really does. There's a lot of differences from county to county. I mean, there's a lot of things here. So we want to dot all the I's.
Go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Bill, it doesn't mean that there's nothing that can happen during this time.
Right.
What I was going to say is that it's not about the house. People say, should I buy a house next to a church? I said, no. The first thing that you need to do is to start to develop a conversation, to have a conversation with the clergy, right? We want to get the guys involved in church. Would they consider an altar server program? I mean, these are really foreign concepts to a lot of people. And Father Alex and Father Constantine and Mark and I are happy, and we are having conversations with families who have identified this. I mean, what we have here in Southampton doesn't exist everywhere, but it exists a lot of places. And there's some beautiful, very vibrant, active churches and also synagogues. We've been approached by a synagogue in Long Island, in Glen Cove. The family came, and the rabbi has a 40-year-old son on the spectrum.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I wish something like this had existed. I didn't think of it. And so it's all houses of worship are suffering from the need to fulfill ministries. And that's what people can be doing during this time, because that's really the hard work. Putting the house together and then seeing, these guys really get along. They look like great housemates. I mean, we have compatibility surveys and stuff like that. We can help. But that's my suggestion, and that's how we can help.
All right. I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's a wonderful way to get started. What I would ask you to do, like I have any authority to ask you to do anything, but what I would ask you to do is to kind of write out that first step in a way so that we can disseminate it on a broad scale spectrum. Because honestly, that would not have necessarily been the first thing I would have thought. I like you said, I would have been one of those, okay, let's buy a house, and you're right. That's not the right first step. And so I think if you can get people to start thinking about it, because we have a lot of people, I travel all the time. So I'm working with parishes all over the country, and they're all looking for that opportunity, as you said, to serve others, to be a ministry, to have other causes that they can support. And yours has certainly got to be on the top of the list. And I think the sooner we can have, and I'm not trying to rush you, because you're right, you have to be done right, but the sooner we can have some roadmap so people can start the dialogue to move in that direction, the better off everything's going to be.
Right.
So that's incredible. All right. Now I got a problem here. As you can tell, I'm eating. You created a problem for me. Okay. And I just want to, you've done a lot of good things, and I think that's great. But you've done some really bad things. And one of the bad things you've done is produce this mocha granola that I am now addicted to. I mean, when I say addicted, I'm a caffeineaholic. And so I get these, these multiple 10-pack units. And by the way, you're exactly right. That little note from the granola is just so powerful. So for everybody that is interested in a very high quality food product, I don't sell stuff, but I've just got to tell you, that's got organic oats, and it tastes, I don't know about the regular, I've never tried your other one. I'm only stuck on the mocha piece, right? Because I'm a chocoholic. But anyway, that product is off the charts. And I want to tell you one thing. I was talking to a friend of mine in another metropolis that told him about this program, and I told him about the granola, and I didn't know this, but he went and he ordered a bunch, and then he called me like 3 days after it came in. He said, my wife and I are addicted to this granola. It's absolutely delicious. So everybody listening out there, We want to flood the orders. We want to swamp their boat. No, but seriously, this is really, really incredible stuff. And I know it's done with love. I've seen the video. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing. I love the ceremony when the young granologist is ready to be adopted and they get their chef's coat on there with their name. I mean, I think that's so powerful. Yes. But aside from that, which is, I encourage everybody to go to Love Michael and order enough granola that we have a logistics problem for them. But here's the other thing that I'm just really, really moved by. Y'all started a recently launched 50/50 fundraiser program that involves educating students as well as raising funds, where half goes to support the cause of the young people and half goes to the ministry that you've got going. And as I understand it, the Greek Orthodox Camp St. Paul did it and raised some massive amount of money for students to go to camp. Tell us a little bit about that, because this is another connection point that I want people in their parishes to hear about and to connect up with Love Michael and to work with you and partner with you.
Yeah, I mean,
take it away,
Lisa,
Mark.
Take it away, Mark, because I'm going to be eating some more granola, so ignore the chomping in the background.
Yeah, so that happened really organically. It was interesting. Father Elias from Camp St. Paul knew someone at our organization. They were talking about fundraising. We thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. We could educate some of the participants. They could run this program. They'll learn a bit, but instead of doing your traditional sort of fundraiser where maybe you're selling wrapping paper or something, you're not really selling anything. You're just sharing this information with folks. They make a donation. It's all done digitally. There's no cost to do it, and there's no paperwork. There's no cash to collect. It's really simple. And at the end of it, we just write a check for 50% of whatever you raise back to your organization. So these students at Camp St. Paul did it, and in a really short amount of time, like a week, they had raised about $15,000. We did it with the
wait. They raised $15,000 total, or $15,000 for their part?
Total. So they got
wait, stop. That's amazing. $7,500 in about a week.
Yeah, it was.
That's like $1,000 a week. Show me any other fundraising activity that's going to be able to produce that kind of a yield, as well as doing something great. I'm sorry, I got real excited there. Go ahead. I didn't interrupt you, Mark.
So that was really interesting to see. And we also did it with Durham Mission of the Virgin Mary with their young kids who, at least at the time, were they buying new robes?
They needed altar server. They needed new altar robes. They needed $12,000, and they couldn't do their bake sale because of the pandemic. And they were our guinea pig for the 50/50. And again, in about 10 days, they raised the money, $12,000.
Yeah, so that was really amazing. So that's one way that really we think that organizations, churches could help us. There's kind of so much, I think, positive that you can do here, because if you have, a Goya, the basketball teams, the different youth programs that maybe need to raise funds for certain things like uniforms or travel, different dance groups like in and around the church. The nice part about this is there's an educational component to it. The participants learn about becoming an ally. At the same time, they're raising funds, and half of that goes back to the church program. And it's really, really fast. It's really easy. It doesn't cost anything. And you're really helping us, because all those folks that are making donations, our team then makes them a thank you. So we thank them on both of our behalf.
Yeah.
And it's really beautiful. So, that person's going to get a handwritten thank you card and some handmade granola, and we're going to ship it right to their door. So you're never going to touch the product. You don't have to, none of that, like someone's going to dump
Girl Scout
cookie dough on your
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Or, hey, here's 2,500 boxes of cookie dough that need to be refrigerated. Good luck.
Yeah.
Here it is. For us, it's going to be all done for you. And that's been really cool to see. So we started that program, and that's a way I think a church could get involved is, sort of educating, and but at the same time helping them meet some of their financial needs too. So it allows us to help, which we really love, and our team really loves. Our team loves to help and be in the position to give help. Right. That's a really nice.
And you're connecting with people all over the country. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's certainly a way that the listeners out there to get involved. If you have sports teams, any sort of need on that front, we're happy to help you on that front. And then if students
Wait.
need
Stop for a
community...
second. I just want to drive this point home, because as a lawyer, I'm incredibly skeptical right now, because what you've described is something that serves a church, serves a ministry of the church, helps the young people in that ministry of the church, helps educate them on autism, makes them autism sponsors and understanding, helps produce revenues for them, produces revenues for you, which is a wonderful nonprofit mission that you're doing, and at the same time is done in a no fuss, no muss manner that is all done electronically and behind the scenes. And I got to tell you, that sounds awfully suspicious to me. So I'm going to challenge everybody that listens right now to find one of the ministries in their church, and let's call these people out. Let's challenge these Love Michael people.
I love it.
Because it cannot possibly be that good. I mean, there's no downside that I see, and I always see a downside. So if you're a parish or you're a ministry or you're a youth group and you want to participate in something like this that's going to do great and wonderful work and also generate revenue for them and you, how do they reach you? How do they reach out to you, and how do they connect with you to do that?
Again, lovemichael.com, L-U-V Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L.com. Go on our website. You'll see a tab there to get information. So if you kind of look at our navigation bar, you'll see information about fundraising, about volunteering. And I encourage you to send a message through there. You can also send an email directly to us, info@lovemichael.com. And, we're happy to help you. But it is that easy. Bill, and it's super powerful. And I think this is the first 501c3 nonprofit fundraiser that I think can have some real impact and do some real good.
I mean, I can think of literally hundreds of parishes I've worked with, and even metropolises and dioceses that I've worked with across the Orthodox ecosphere that all would benefit from this. This is just a beautiful thing that y'all have done. God bless you for that.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I think, one thing is that where does another 50% go? It goes to support this. It goes to support this cause. It goes to give meaningful work to this community and to help both of these organizations carry forward. They're sister organizations. So the success of one is the success of the other as well. Right. So.
And that's the perfect definition of synergy, right? No one's losing anything and everyone's gaining. By the way, including the donors, because I'll just tell you, that simple, beautiful note that came with the granola, I mean, it just tore me up. I mean, it's just beautiful. And to know that you're making a difference, not only for whatever local ministry or cause you're supporting, but for this incredible vision that you all have is just wonderful. Ah, man, I'm just so inspired by you. Okay, look, I've taken so much of your time, but I always give my guests the final word. So what else do you want to share? What else can you share? What else would you like to share with the audiences that listen live and listen to this as a podcast?
I mean, I'd like to say that we're going to continue to do what we do, and we're on track to do what we're going to do. But if there's an angel donor out there, or if there's somebody that's really inspired and is in the position to give, we'll just do it faster, And I think that we've been on lots of programs. We've gotten, some national coverage, and at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't really move the needle. Maybe a little bit of granola is bought, but we really, really we count on donations in order to grow faster. And I just, I'm looking for that. You hear those stories. Melissa Gates is giving away. Do you ever speak to Melissa Gates? I'm like, how do you get to Melissa Gates? How do you get to, Bezos's wife? I don't know, but those. I mean, Lady Gaga. We got an award for. We got an award we got onto Starbucks. We won a JetBlue award. And I'm like, well, could you give us some money so we could, grow our program? And they're like, no, but then they give $200,000 to Lady Gaga for her Born This Way Foundation. I'm like, does she really need it? Like, we really need it. It's going to go directly to, to growing what we need to do and to helping scale this. And so that's my my wish.
And Lisa, I'm with you on that. I mean, listen, some of you who listen to this or this program, and some of you who know people, you may listen to it, but you know someone else, what they're called to do is to make money. And what you're calling them to do is to deploy that money in a very, very productive and righteous manner, not only to help the young men and women, you know, who are on the spectrum, you know, develop either a living opportunity or a work opportunity, et cetera, but also to help the movement. So for those of you that have the resources, and I know a lot of you do, and don't make me start calling your names out, because I will, this is your opportunity to truly make a wonderful, wonderful difference. And by the way, for every parish or every member of a parish that listens, I want you to take this program back to your parish and find a way to connect up with donations, large donations, lots of zeros, and also with the other ways that you can partner. So that's one thing that I hope people will take away. Anything else, Mark, Lisa? This is open mic night. Okay, so
no, I think Lisa said it really well. That, you know, that we'll just do it faster. We're going to do this, but we are an organization, I think, that, you know, turns donations into sustainable and exponential growth. And that's what you'll see from this education program. You know, these students have reached over 500,000 people, and we're just getting started. There's 54 million students in America that we want to reach, and we think that they can have a massive impact. So we need help getting to them, and we need the funds that are donated to Love Michael. It really is fueling an engine that's driving a movement to make the world a much better place for autistic individuals.
And what a beautiful way to capstone it. I mean, you know, driving this engine and making a difference in the movement. And I hope that everybody listens and will take this back to your youth ministries and your youth groups and your parish ministries, in addition to your large donors, and just join the Love Michael movement and actually make a difference. So I want to very, very much thank my special guest tonight, Dr. Lisa Liberatore and Mark Biondi, for their enthusiasm, their vision, to everything they've done, the amazing nonprofits they've set up both in Love Michael and U.S. Autism Homes. Please connect with them with Love. That's LUVMichael.com. I also want to give a big shout out of thanks to Matushka Trudy Richter, my show producer in Chesterton, Indiana, and the Maddox family and the great team at Ancient Faith Radio that make this possible. If those of you listening find these Stewardship Calling First Wednesday or Fifth Sunday programs to be helpful, tell your friends about it and log in. Tonight's program is of course on April 13th, 2022. So you can access it either by going to my free website, stewardshipcalling.com, the internet radio tab, and scroll down to April 13th, 2020, or you can go directly to the Ancient Faith Radio live programming tab, go to Stewardship Calling, and again, scroll down to April 13th, 2022. I'm really excited about the next several Stewardship Calling programs. On Wednesday, May 4th, the first Wednesday program in May, we're going to focus on living your stewardship calling in the face of personal health crises. Every person I know is either dealing with a serious health crisis of themselves or somebody in their immediate circle. And sometimes, you know, when you're dealing with a health issue, it becomes easy to be fearful or despondent or uncertain. And so the question becomes, how do you keep your faith and continue to pursue your stewardship calling to which you've been called? And we're going to explore this personal journey of faith with Orthodox Christians who've survived or are surviving now serious health challenges that, you know, could have been death sentences and yet are nonetheless thriving in their ministry work. And my guests are going to include noted iconographer and artist Rip Kostaris, and a dedicated Orthodox philanthropist and strategic planning leader that I've recruited many times, Tracy Namey. And you're not going to want to miss their inspirational stories on the May 4th program. I'm especially excited to talk about the May 29th program. Some of you may know that my producer here, Matushka Trudy Richter, had suffered a huge and unimaginable loss of her husband, father who was a wonderful priest and a great father in every possible way. And as I've been walking with as closely as I can Matushka Trudy on her journey of faith and her continued service, I've implored upon her to come on the air with me and share this very, very personal story. So for every one of you who have suffered a huge loss in your life, a loss in this life, but to the life eternal, you're going to want to tune into the May 29th program as Matushka, Trudy, and I and explore that. And then we're going to follow it up immediately on the June 1st program, where I have the privilege of interviewing a very dear friend of mine, Dr. George Koulianos, and a principal researcher, Dr. George Stavros, and Presbytera Nicole Kiers, who the president of the National Sisterhood of Presbyteras. And in this program, we're going to explore the amazing new empirical research that was recently concluded on the specific issues that are being dealt with by the wives of clergy, a very critically important topic. So please tune into the May 4th program, where we're going to deal with Orthodox faithful stewardship calling, people that are survived health crises. On May 29th, we're going to get the loss of life and the continuation of life with Matushka Trudy. And then again on June 1st, we're going to follow it up with the work being done with the wives of clergy and the research on what they need. So you're all invited to check out the other always free resources at stewardshipcalling.com that cover a whole gamut of issues. If you ever want to reach me, you can reach me at bill@stewardshipcalling.com. And I ask you to please remember that 2 of the most important days of your life are, first, the day you were born, and second, the day you figure out why. And if you're not already living your stewardship calling, I ask you to begin to prayerfully discern your why and your stewardship calling, and then start living the most extraordinary second half of your life. I want to thank you for listening. God bless you. And as always, I pray that you SOPTPAETJ, which stands for stay on the path, capital T, capital P, and enjoy the journey. God bless and good night.